I've been critical of when he came over here when we were gold fishing is another one of these, like Pyromancer's Ascension, a little bit of a try-hard deck. But that said, this deck is really good at ignoring, it's a relatively fast deck that ignores decks that are playing on the battlefield or trying to interact on the battlefield. And therefore, I think Derv might have a problematic matchup here because he can't really interact and he's not going to kill out in front of Major's best draws.
Well, it's a Razorverge Thicket and Nettle Sentinel is going to start things off here for Mr. Irvine as we begin round number 5 of competition. For Majors, number 22 on our SCG Tour Player of the Year leaderboard. He'll just play a basic mountain and simply pass the turn back Lightning Bolt at the ready. To Irvine we go. We'll see what his second turn will bring. Now this Scape Shift deck, and I'm checking to make sure Majors has Through the Breach. He may not actually have that card this weekend. We'll find out soon enough, as Nettle Sentinel's going to come into the red zone. But this is a deck that's really been popularized, I'd say, by Scott Lipp, a member of Team East West Bowl, who's really the one person who does really, really well with this strategy. Loves himself a Primeval Titan and a Valakut, and ramping into it as fast as possible, as Lightning Bolt does take care of the Nettle Sentinel.
It looks like Summoner's Pack is the other card in the deck to set up the lines of play of Primeval Titan into Valakut, but no Emerald Colt Through the Breach package this weekend.
Gotcha. Majors took care of the Nettle Sentinel, which means that Darwin's Elite is not going to bring along an elf with it, so it's just a boring old 2-mana 2/2. A Grizzly Bear.
We caught up with Majors earlier in the tournament. He literally got his basics out of the draft box this morning.
Yeah, he made fun of me because I do that every tournament now, and it's actually something I take quite a bit of pride in. I don't care about matching lands anymore, spending a bunch of money on my lands.
I think nice basic lands, it's like having a nice suit. You spend the money once and then you have it forever.
Yeah.
It's a good investment.
There's a Stomping Ground off the Farseek, and we will head back over to David Irvine. It'll be his third turn of the game. It's mostly out of laziness for me.
Yep. You would also just lose the cards if you...
It's true. Or, I don't know, get rid of them to
play
another FanDuel tournament or something. Yeah.
Collect your cash!
Yeah. Set your lineup, collect your cash.
That's simple.
It's just how it works. Here's a Cavern of Souls. This is an Elvish Archdruid. In for 3 comes Irvine, but you can see the difference here between Majors and Irvine in their starts, and Majors' actually ability to interact is what's really helping this game.
Yeah, he's got 4 copies of Lightning Bolt and 2 copies of Anger of the Gods in the main deck. On top of that, he's just able to accelerate his mana a lot more reliably than Derv can, and Irvine cannot interact with Majors' top end.
Here's a Search for Tomorrow, hardcast style. When he resolves that, land into the battlefield untapped. He'll go get himself a basic mountain. I think we might see a Lightning Bolt here on the Archer in just a moment. We will find out. There's the Bolt. The Elvish Lord is down, stomping around the land for the turn. And Majors is moving along pretty well here. I guess the next question is, does he have land number 6 and or Primeval Titan or a way to find the Titan?
Yeah, just looking for a payoff card at this point, but he has not missed a beat thus far in setting up shop.
Horizon Canopy. See Irvine out there with 2 Razorverge Thickets, a Cavern of Souls on Elf, and then that green-white land that can sacrifice to draw a card in Horizon Canopy. There's Elvish Visionary, Irvine will draw. Picked up a copy of Eclectic Company. Here comes the Elite. Majors will fall down to 12. And the follow-up is Llanowar Elves. Don't want to confuse that with Elvish Mystic. There's a basic mountain. Well, I think he's got the Titan. Well, Majors is making this look easy. Let's see what Majors wants to search up here. Might be time for 2 Valakuts, perhaps. Looks like he might be thinking Valakut Cinderglade. And he is.
This is a bit of a hedge if he goes and gets Valakut plus 1 mountain.
Looks like he's going to go double Valakut.
Okay, so this is the high ceiling play of getting a bunch of triggers next turn. He could have hedged a little bit by going Valakut plus 1 land. Then in case something happened to his Primeval Titan, at that point he would be able to just draw and play mountains and use that to manage Irvine's board. He might be confident enough that Irvine can't interact with this card game 1 that he's going for the high ceiling play.
Yeah. Basically saying, I don't think you can kill this.
Right.
You don't have Path Exile in your main deck or anything like that. I think you're just a normal Warlord Elves deck. Maybe you have Path Exile on your sideboard, but I don't think my Titan's going to die this game. And it looks like he might be right. Irvine will draw. Irvine looks like he may have picked up a copy of Darwin's Elite here. Azuri and then Collected Company. That's the grip.
If there's no way for him to play over the top of the Primeval Titan this turn, he may just have to go, have his board get demolished, and hope that the Collected Company and his untap allows him to do something. Majors could really only interact at sorcery speed. Once the Valakut triggers are resolved, then that's all he can really do with his turn. But unless he can make big inroads this turn, casting on his main phase might just swallow up the best of whatever the Collected Company has to yield, and at that point he's not drawing to a whole lot.
Irvine's going to think the turn through quite a bit. There's no real clear path, unfortunately, for David. I'm not even convinced there's a real great turn to be had.
I like this play from Irvine. I think he has to pass the turn, let Majors do whatever Majors is going to do, and then hope that the Collected Company and his untap lets him get somewhere.
Explore. Majors will draw. Wooded Foothills. Remember, he'll get 2 lands to play this turn.
The Primeval Titan will get him up to lands, mountains 5 and 6 most likely, and then he's got his land drops to make beyond that, so he's got a lot of work he can do here.
There's a Windswept Heath. There's a Wooded Foothills. Titan attack. There will be a trigger. The trigger is now resolving.
And Major is playing the fetch lands pre-combat here because he's going to get mountains 5 and 6, and he wants to be able to interact at instant speed in case Irvine does something like, say, with Collected Company. Those fetch lands can go get some mountains. Those mountains turn into lightning bolts, and it's going to be hard for Irvine to cobble much of a board together or keep himself alive.
Might just be able to go upstairs, right? Like this is 4 shots. That's 12 damage.
Yeah. That's
sack a fetch land. That's 6. Sack a fetch land. That's 6.
It could potentially be mucked up by a Collected Company here, which is why Majors is just playing the fetch lands first. So in case something comes off of a Collected Company where he needs to interact for whatever reason, he has the option of doing that.
Majors is saying, okay, all these targets are going upstairs with the Valakut triggers. I'm not going to try to pick apart your board. Also, we can't forget that there's a 6/6 attack.
Right. There's a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah. Here's Collected Company. I wonder if it's going to hit
Reflector Mage. It's a big good spot for Reflector Mage.
I don't think this time. Our weekends of Collected Company Reflector Mage, I think they're over.
I think so.
You think they're done now?
Maybe for a little bit at least.
Yeah. See, Michael Majors are going to win game number 1 here over David Irvine. Scape Shift very quickly up a game over Elves as the power of Primeval Titan and cheap interaction going to take down the Elves. But that means we get the opportunity to take a look at the sideboards here for each player. That means we're going to go to David Irvine, see what he's working with his 2 Kitchen Finks, his 2 Path Exile, 2 Fracturing Gust. I see an Essence Warden, a Phyrexian Revoker, along with a Avon Mind Sensor, a Burrington Forge Tender, a Malaria, Sylvac Outcast, a Kataki War's Wage, a Chameleon Colossus, an Elvish Champion, and an Eidolon of Rhetoric. What do we like here, Patrick, and why?
Not a whole lot in the sideboard here. The 2 copies of Path to Exile, I think Irvine wants a little bit of interaction for Primeval Titan. And you could also talk me into both Avon Mind Sensor and Burrington Forge Tender as Court of Calling targets.
On the other side of things here, for Michael Majors, 3 Obstinate Baloth, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Chalice of the Void, 2 Engineer Explosives, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Graph Trigger Skate, another copy of Anger of the Gods. Jeez, and then a Sudden Shock.
Anger of the Gods, Sudden Shock, and the copies of Engineered Explosives. I think the matchup is probably a little too fast, especially on the draw, and Irvine's deck with enough of a spread of mana costs that Chalice of the Void is probably no good here. But you could talk me into Sudden Shock and Anger of Gods, Engineered Explosives, maybe even Graph Trigger Skate pretty easily.
That's a lot of interaction there.
A lot of interaction.
I don't know how much of it he's going to want, but we'll find out soon enough as these players will sideboard and shuffle up. Get ready here for game number 2 in just a moment. But let's talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter, shall we? It is your source for Magic the Gathering news, and best of all, it's a freebie.
All the going-ons at Star City Game, newest content cultivated by Cedric Phillips, latest information about the SCG Tour with a selected SCG Tour match of the week, exclusive deck lists and advice from many of your favorite columnists, all the recent event results, an exclusive cardboard crack comic, and again, signing up is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
Well, Michael Majors, player who is currently up a game, Platinum Level Pro, and number 22 on our SCG Tour Player of the Year race. This is the 25-year-old from Evans, Georgia, who currently resides in Roanoke, Virginia. He's doing versus videos, providing plenty of content over at Star City Games. An up-and-comer, to say the least. 5 open top 8s with 1 win, 1 invitational top 8. He loves himself some Applebee's, always trying to get me to go, even though I brick wall him every single time. It's nothing personal, Michael, I swear. An amateur kayak enthusiast, and he is an avid reader and avid deck builder, too.
Usually after the events are over, I will receive a text message from Michael Majors that just says Club B's ?
Yes.
Which is his terminology for Applebee's, which he loves for whatever reason.
Look, he knows what he likes. We live pretty close to each other in the Roanoke area, and there's a Club B's right around the corner that I'm pretty sure
that I have no trouble believing that there's an Applebee's in Roanoke, Virginia.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. It's right around the corner, and I'm
that
pretty
sounds
sure,
right.
Probably known by name there at the Oak Club,
Yeah,
as he likes to call it. Club B's. Major's kind of he's starting to put some archetypes on the map. So he was one of the first people to come to the Eldrazi. And the fact that you could play like Fort Urborgs and Ivugan and do all this broken stuff. And also Teamer Emerge.
Yep.
He was one of the real pilots behind that deck, top 8 at the Invitational in New Jersey with that as his standard weapon of choice. He's one heck of a deck builder, honestly. I love the way that he approaches the game from a deck building standpoint. And with this new set, his articles are going to be the ones I'm going to be reading quite a bit because I love the way that he approaches. I don't think we play a lot of the same decks. Like Teamer Emerge, never a deck I would play.
Right.
But I can appreciate the work that he put into finding that deck because that's also a deck I would never find.
Too much going on.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I would rather just play Town Gossipmonger and try to kill him.
Yeah.
That's all.
I can identify all the good 1- and 2-mana red cards that are decent. I can build those decks.
I can do that with the white ones.
A lot of moving parts, though.
And Elvish Mystic is where Irvine will start off of a Pendlehaven. Bzz. Lightning Bolt will take care of that.
And telling that Majors, even with Anger of the Gods in hand, chose to bolt on turn 1 because he knows that he's capable of getting killed before he can cast it, or that Irvine can build up such a board that that's not good enough.
A Secure Tribe Elder after Majors takes 2 from his stomping ground will be his play. And now Irvine will untap and draw. And it's a Cavernous Soul. So land number 2 is finally here for the Derv. And we'll see what he can do here on his 3rd turn of the game. Going to start by attacking with the Nettle Sentinel, and Majors will sacrifice the Tribe Elder. Forest or a Mountain on the way. And it'll be a forest. You see the Graph Trigger's Cage there at the bottom of Major's deck. Unsurprisingly, he brought that card in. Very good against Elves. And I think the matchup is just very good for Majors on the whole. There's an Elvish Visionary. Nettle Sentinel will untap. Irvine will draw a card. Picked up another copy of Nettle Sentinel.
Majors interacts a lot more reliably and in ways that are much more destructive than what Irvine can do on the other side of the table. There's just no analog for Anger of the Gods, Engineered Explosive, Graph Trigger's Cage. And Majors has enough bolts and Secure Tribe Elders to give himself the breathing space to get to those cards as well.
A Valakut in hand along with the payoff card and Primeval Titan. Majors has got a lot of what he needs here thus far.
And he's got the tools here to really make this game a slog. Let Irvine commit more to the table, Anger of the Gods away everything, and then it's not that long until he's casting Primeval Titan.
Irvine doesn't look like he's found another land. I think I see a Heritage. This might be Irvine's turn where he just wants to play everything, which is exactly what Majors wants him to do.
Yep. But Irvine's got to be suspicious. I mean, Major's not even casting a ramp spell last turn. That's a lot of what his deck is. Not casting any sort of removal. I think Irvine probably has Anger of the Gods or Pyroclasm or a similar card on his radar right now. The question is, does his hand let him have any sort of route to play around those cards?
There's the Heritage Druid. Well, this is kind of what Elves is almost forcing into doing. You know, it only has so much finesse, right? This is a deck that kind of just brute force over the head, dump all my cards. Can you beat all the cards I just dumped on the table? As we saw at the New Jersey Invitational, the answer was no. I think right now in this particular matchup, I believe the answer is yes. But we'll have to see.
Well, he has Court of Calling in hand, and assuming they decided in his Bird and Forge Tender, then there's a route.
There's a Visionary. Irvine will draw. Another copy of Nettle Sentinel. He can get a little something going here. And as we mentioned at the top, you know, Irvine's no slouch. You know, when you're playing against a deck like Scape Shift, you can assume Anger the Gods. I think that's a pretty easy thing to do. 2 green mana floating now. Let's go up to 5. Let's go down to 1. Collected Company. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Spell Queller and Reflector Mate.
Dustwatch Recruiter.
Yeah.
And a Sylvan Advocate.
Oh, nice. Looks like he's found a copy of Azuri, and I think also a copy of Elvish Champion. Now, Azuri you're probably familiar with. Elvish Champion you might not be, so we'll take a look at that one. It's kind of the original Elvish Lord, if memory serves.
Yep.
Symmetrical in what it can do. Going to go up to 4 green. This is, another Company. Jeez, this hand's good. Elvish Champion. Other elves get +1/+1 and have Forest Walk, so that's a symmetrical effect. Works for your opponent as well. Another Company here from Irvine.
I'm trying to think if that is the first Elf Lord or not.
Twitter, help us.
So let me try to get this. I feel like it's almost impossible because it was just such a popular early Magic creature type that would be the first one.
And Darwin's Elite and a Llanowar Elves came in off that collected Company. And now you can see Anger of the Gods actually just pretty bad
Yeah,
now.
doesn't even matter.
Yeah, because now, you know, Irvine has enough green mana where he could regenerate all of his stuff off of Azuri. His creatures are pretty big because of Elvish Champion. And he also has the ability to Court of Calling for a bunch, or just for very little, and get himself a Burning Forge Tender. So in a game where Majors went Lightning Bolt your creature into Secure Tribe Elder block and setting up an Anger of the Gods, well, now this is Irvine's board.
Yep.
And this all came because of the draw of a Heritage Druid. That set the whole thing off. And now, if I'm Majors in this spot, I might not even want to show Anger of the Gods.
No, I mean,
what's the point?
I mean, if it staves off lethal, then go ahead, because maybe Primeval Titan's good enough the next turn. But if you're going to die anyway, might as well just pack it up and go to the next one.
Now, we'll take a look at Anger of the Gods really quickly here and make sure I'm not thinking about this card incorrectly. You can regenerate and all that jazz. Anger of the Gods deals 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. Now, here is the Anger. So Majors will show off the card. And to be fair, Azuri cannot target itself. It says regenerate another target elf, so perhaps there's still some magic to be played here.
With Cord left over, though, this just seems it's asking too much.
It's asking a lot.
I suspect this is not going to be good enough.
So Irvine's going to tap a bunch of creatures here for green mana. This might be for Cord, it might not be. Looks like it is. These will untap, of course, the Nettle Sentinels. Court of Calling will resolve. I assume there's a Forge Tender hanging out in there somewhere. Bink. I think right on top of the deck. And that'll take care of Anger of the Gods. And now none of those elves will die. Gotta say, every time I think that elves is just going to lose a matchup, or it's in a bad matchup or in a bad spot, it tends to be a lot more resilient than I think we give it credit for.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you get gets a lot of draws and redraws, and Collected Company is great at weathering the storm of removal spells as well.
Irvine looks like he's going to use these elves for green mana from the Heritage Druid, so that'll be 3 green, potentially. Now he'll play Llanowar Elves. That'll untap these Nettle Sentinels, so 2 green floating.
And I think this is just trying to get to Azuri's activation with as many attackers as are available, the much green mana floating to regenerate as necessary, etc., etc., etc.
So there's your overrun for Azuri. And now there will be some attacking here in just a moment with all the knuckleheads. Michael Majors is dead. Dave Irvine's going to tie things up here against Michael Majors. Elves and Scape Shift getting ready for game number 3.
Played a Bolt. Also, Irvine missed his second land drop that game.
Correct.
And Majors had an Anger of the Gods that he could have cast on turn 3.
Also correct.
Died with it in his hand after Irvine played 40 cards on the table.
Uh-huh.
Impressive stuff.
That's Elves right there, man.
Yep.
That's Elves. Again, every time we try to count it out, think it's in a bad matchup, and we picked against it all the Invitational long in the top 8 from Liam, and Liam lost 1 game in the elimination rounds as he carved his way to the Players' Championship. So we're going to see if Majors can do the same thing here, try to beat these Elves, or if Irvine's going to move on to 5-0. Now, do we think anything changes? Because I don't really see either player going back to the drawing board.
No, I mean, I think Majors has the interaction that he wants in his deck, the removal spells and the sweepers and so forth. And Irvine, you know, we saw the Bird and Forge Tender as predicted. I think the Mind Sensor is probably also in the deck as well. And, you know, the 2 copies of Path to Exile to give him a little bit of interaction. I imagine that's about the extent of it.
Well, those are the options, and apparently we found a lore a little bit older than Elvish Champion. We'll go over that one in just a sec, but we want to start by going over the StarCityGames.com YouTube page where you can watch the replays of this. You can watch the brand new show, Split Second, and a bunch more.
Yeah, a lot of content. You can subscribe today for free over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. A lot of content up there, including Versus Series archives, Commander Versus archives, Magic Online playtesting, Best of SCG Live, and much more. Again, youtube.com/StarCityGames. Become a subscriber today and be notified when new content is uploaded to the page.
You'll be one of over 100,000, so thank you to everyone who's following our YouTube page.
So is there an Elf Lord in Fallen Empires?
I'm not sure.
Because that was a supported creature type, I believe, and it's possible that there's along with Homrids, fun guy.
Homrids?
Yeah.
Say fun guy. Oh, fun guy. All right, we got an elf.
Okay, let's see it. Oh!
From Tempest, you were playing.
Oh! That is a stinger that I didn't have that one. Aldamri, Lord of Leaves.
You're going to take the headset off.
Oh.
It's time for you to maybe look into something else.
Oh, that is brutal.
You know I keep you for Saga and before that, right?
Tempest was a set where I quit for a while.
Ah, likely story.
I did. I quit from Tempest. I played a little bit of Tempest and quit from then until Urza's Legacy.
So you weren't curse scrolling people then?
I was not.
Okay.
I was not. I was never Tolarian Academying people in Standard.
That's for the best, I think.
I played in some turn 2 Standard formats a little bit. But I was playing the 25 counterspell deck, so it was fine. 25 counterspells, 25 lands, 4 Thieving Magpies, 2 Masticores, and 4 Powder Kegs, or whatever the deck was.
Oh, yeah, that deck was really good.
It was really good.
Yeah, I remember that. I was probably getting my teeth kicked in by it. I was a wee youngster then.
I had main deck on Null and no main deck creature interaction. To show you what the format was like. Treachery was not good enough for the main deck, and a Null was. It's a different time.
Wow. I love that.
Right.
We're underway. Search for Tomorrow on suspend here from Majors to kick off game number 3. Irvine, well, you can see his Pendlehaven. Don't have a great look at the rest of his hand, but there is a Rage of Urge Thicket. Good place to start for land number 1. An Elvish Mystic, and let's go over to Majors. Down goes the search. Does he have an untapped red source of mana?
I believe he has a Stomping Ground and a Windswept Heath.
Right.
So a couple options here.
He'll play that Stomping Ground untapped. Going to fall down to 18. Is it time for the bolts? Nah, it's time for a Kalani Heart Expedition. Hi. David Irvine going to take a look. I think we should do the same. Haven't seen this one for a little while. It used to be a Scape Shift kind of mainstay. But now there's a lot of options for players in regards to the mana acceleration they have. But the Kalani Heart Expedition from original Zendikar, I do remember that because I was playing it much then. Whenever an Atlanta is the battlefield, you can put a counter on the Expedition. When you get 3, you get to sacrifice that, search for up to 2 basics, and they enter the battlefield tapped.
Pretty powerful card in the matchups that don't involve very much interaction.
Yes. So Kalani Heart Expedition is like when you need the most ramping possible, this one was really nice to have.
Yeah, the issue with this card is it's a card your opponent can kill.
Yes.
But if you're not in a matchup where that matters, then it's one of the more efficient ramp cards out there. And this kind of sets up a line here for Majors potentially activated the next turn because he has his Search for Tomorrow. He plays a fetch land, and he's just up.
Yeah, it's not hard to do. It's not particularly difficult to turn on. So if Irvine has something like a Reclamation Sage, oh, problem solved. Irvine going to play Pendlehaven.
And this is the type of draw where Irvine's kind of at the mercy of the quality of Major's hands. If he has Anger of the Gods plus a Primeval Titan, I don't think there's really going to be a line of play that allows Irvine to beat all of that.
There's a Heritage Druid. This is a Darwin's Elites. It'll bring an Elf along with it, which means Heritage Druid is on. Does he want to keep going? Can he afford to keep going?
I mean, the question is, can I beat Anger of the Gods anyway?
3 mana. Arc Druid.
Yeah, and you can see, Irvine's body language says it all. He knows he's beat here by Anger of the Gods, but he's got to at least give himself a shot because Majors is threatening to have Primeval Titan the next turn, so you can't play around everything here. And his hand may not allow him to beat Anger of the Gods even if he plays a little bit more conservatively anyway, so here we go.
Yeah. His hand last game actually let him play around Anger of the Gods really nicely.
Yeah.
With the Heritage Druid.
He had such an explosive turn. Yep. His board went from nothing to everything, which is kind of the way you want to do it. He may not have had that luxury this game.
There's Windswept Heath. Here is Anger of the Gods. Kill all of the things. And they are exiled. Our Expedition is going to tick up to 3 because of the Windswept Heath plus the Searching of Cinderglade, which means it can now be sacrificed to search up 2 basics that are on the battlefield tapped. And Michael Majors is certainly in the driver's seat right now.
So yeah, does he have the last piece of the puzzle, which is Primeval Titan? I believe it's in hand.
Major's going to shortcut a little bit here. Just say, you know what, I'm just going to search for the basics now. It's no big deal. Save a little bit of time here. Going to search up some mountains there.
Now with 5 mountains in play, the Primeval Titan can come into play, get a Valor Cut, and a 6 land to interact with the board that turn if appropriate, or just 2 copies of Valor Cut. And, I mean, Irvine's down to 3 cards in hand. This is asking a lot.
Gown of Souls. And now there's Heritage Druid. This is a Nettle Sentinel, and he's got to try to rebuild. Doesn't have a lot to work with. And I actually think I caught a glimpse of the Primeval Titan in hand for Majors, and if that's the case, this one's over. Lightning Bolt, bzz. Nettle Sentinel down. Majors will untap, and Majors will draw. Well, if he didn't have prime time before, he's got it now. It's time to go a-searching. So there is the Valakut.
And with Valakut plus land, even in the event that Irvine has a removal spell for the Primeval Titan, now Major's in a spot where every mountain for the rest of the game is a Terminate. He's just drawing to so many cards.
Every mountain, every search spell.
His whole deck.
Basically all of it.
He almost has no misses in the deck at that point.
Yep.
And this assumes that Irvine even has a path. If he's got nothing, then he's just dead.
Yep. Well, he drew a forest, and I think the other card in his hand is an Eternal Witness.
And I'm looking at the grave. It doesn't exist.
Get a good look at the graveyard. Not a lot to get back. And whatever you get back is going to die. Play a forest. Boom. Got 2 cards in the graveyard. Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel. Play a Nettle Sentinel. I can appreciate the gusto here from Dave.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, no more. All right, I'm all set here. Michael Major's going to win this match over David Irvine. 2-1. Scape Shift will take care of Elves, and for number 22 on the SCG Tour Player of the Year leaderboard, moving on up. Great start, 5-0.